I have not heard that. Has blank given a statement to police about Jeffrey Epstein performing sexual acts on her? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. I have not heard that. How do you know blank? Blank, blank, blank. Was blank under the age of 18? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. I don't recall how old blank was. Did she tell police that Jeffrey Epstein assaulted her sexually? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. I never heard that. Did blank recruit or bring girls to the home that were under the age of 18? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation, and I think this has been asked and answered already. You can answer the question. I have no idea what blank did. You never observed blank with girls under the age of 18 at Jeffrey's home. Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. The answer is no, I have no idea. Do you know blank? I do. What is your relationship with blank? Mr. P. Object to the form. What do you mean, what is my relationship? Are you friendly with him? How do you know him? He is the husband of blank. Is blank one of your friends? Yes. Did you ever send Virginia to blank to give him a massage? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. No. Did you ever instruct Virginia Roberts to have sex with blank? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. I have never instructed Virginia to have sex with anybody, ever. How old was blank when she met Jeffrey? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I have no idea. Was she under the age of 18? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I just testified. I have idea how old she was. You testified she was your friend. You don't know how old she was when she met Jeffrey. That happened sometime in the 70s. How would I know? Or 80s? I have no idea. Can you testify to what your friends did 30 years ago? You don't ask the questions here, Ms. Maxwell. What about blank? When did you first meet blank? I don't recall the exact date. Did you hire blank? I don't hire people. She came to work at the house to answer phones. Where did you meet her? I just testified. I don't recall exactly when I met her. Was one of your job responsibilities to interview people that would be then hired by Jeffrey? That was one of my responsibilities. Do you recall interviewing blank? I don't recall the exact interview, no. Do you know what tasks blank was hired to perform? She was asked to answer telephones. Did you ever ask her to rub Jeffrey's feet? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I believe that I have read that, but I don't have any memory of it. Did you ever tell blank that she would get extra money if she provided Jeffrey massages? I was always happy to give career advice to people, and I think that becoming somebody in the healthcare profession, either exercise instructor or nutritionalist or professional massage therapist, is an excellent job opportunity. Hourly wages are around $7, $8, $9 an hour, and as a professional healthcare provider, you can earn somewhere between, as we have established, $100 to $200, and be able to travel and have a job that pays. That is a wonderful job opportunity. So in the context of advising people for opportunities for work, it is possible that I would have said she would explore that as an option. Did you tell her she would get extra money if she massaged Jeffrey? I'm just saying I cannot recall the exact conversation. I give career advice and I have done that. Did you ever have blank massage you? I did. How many times? I don't recall how many times. Was there sex involved? No. Did you ever instruct blank to massage blank? I don't believe. I have no recollection of it. Did you ever have sexual contact with blank? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. You need to give me an opportunity to get in between the questions. Anything that involves consensual sex on your part, I'm instructing you not to answer. Did you ever have sexual contact with blank? Again, she is an adult. I'm asking you, did you ever have sexual contact with blank? I've just been instructed not to answer. On what basis? You have to ask my lawyer. Did you ever have sexual contact with blank that was not consensual on blank part? Mr. P. You can answer non-consensual. I've never had non-consensual sex with anybody. Not blank? Mr. P. Objection. I just testified I never had non-consensual sex with anybody ever, at any time, at any place, at any time, with anybody. So, if blank were to testify that she did not consent to a sexual act that you participated in, I just told you I have never ever, under any circumstances with anybody, at any time, in any place, in any form, had non-consensual relations with anybody. Did you introduce blank blank? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I've again read that blank claims that she met, or that she said she met blank. I don't know if I was one of the who made the introduction or not. Do you know a female by the name of blank? I do. How do you know her? Blank. So she worked for you? Yes. Did you hire her? Again, Jeffrey hired people. Did you have sex with her? Mr. P. This is the same instruction about consensual or non-consensual. Was blank under the age of 18 when you hired her? No, I didn't hire her. As I said, Jeffrey did. Did blank ever have sex with Jeffrey? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. How would I know what somebody else did? You weren't involved in the sex between Jeffrey blank and yourself? Were you involved with sex between Jeffrey blank and yourself? Mr. P. Everyone is talking over each other. You heard the question. Again, you know what the instruction is. If there is any consensual issue involved, I instruct you not to answer. Moving on. So you are refusing to answer that question. I've been instructed by my lawyer. Did you ever have sex with Jeffrey, blank, Virginia, and yourself when Virginia was underage? Absolutely not. Mr. P. We've been going for about an hour. I would like to take a 5-minute break, please. Ms. Macaulay, I'm almost done. Mr. P. You are not going to allow a break. Ms. Macaulay, as soon as I get through my line of questioning, which is perfectly appropriate. Did blank travel with you and Jeffrey to Europe? I'm sure she did. What is she doing today? I have no idea. Do you speak to her regularly now? Do you speak to her? No. Do you know where she lives? No. Do you know what country she lives in? No. Where is the last place you knew that she lived? Last place I knew for sure was in Los Angeles. When did she stop working for you? 2001, 2002? What tasks did she perform for you? She helped me with moving in and out of houses, construction. She was a general help. She helped with buying things that needed to be purchased. If I needed her to stand in for me during meetings, it was a very wide-ranging job. Did you ever bring females to perform massages for Jeffrey? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. What are you asking me? Did blank, was it ever blank, responsibility to bring females to the house for the purpose of massaging Jeffrey? Blank job was to help me with the house and work in homes. It was not her job to, whatever you just said, bring masseuses. Did she do that? I have no recollection. I have no idea. Did you pay blank or did Jeffrey pay her? Jeffrey. Do you recall how much she was paid? I do not. Ms. Macaulay, I think we can take a break now. It's 10:02 and we are off the record. Recess. It's now 10:18. We are back on the record and starting disc number 2. Ms. Maxwell, I asked you about Virginia Roberts earlier. Can you describe what Virginia Roberts' duties were when she was with Mr. Epstein? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I believe that Virginia was a masseuse. Was Virginia required to dress up in any way for massages? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I have no idea. Did you provide Virginia with outfits to wear for certain massages? I have no idea what you are talking about. For example, did you ever provide Virginia with a schoolgirl outfit to wear for a massage? I have no idea what you are talking about. So you didn't provide her with that? As I just testified, I have no idea what you are talking about. I was trying to interpret whether you didn't understand what a schoolgirl outfit was, or you were saying that didn't happen. I clearly know what a schoolgirl outfit is. I have no recollection of providing anybody with a schoolgirl outfit. Did you have a set of outfits used by the massage therapist that would include things like schoolgirl outfit or a black patent leather outfit or anything of that nature? Mr. P. Object to the form and foundation. That would just be another of Virginia's lies. You didn't have anything like that. I did not. Did you have a basket of sex toys that you kept in the Palm Beach house? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. First of all, what do you mean? A laundry basket that contained sex toys in it. Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. Can you ask the question again? Did you have a laundry basket that contained sex toys in it in the Palm Beach house? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. Did you have a laundry basket of sex toys in the Palm Beach house? Mr. P. Same objection. You can answer. I don't recollect anything about a laundry basket of toys, sex toys. Do you recollect having sex toys at the Palm Beach house? You have to define what are you talking about. A sex toy meaning a vibrator of some kind. Sometimes they are called dildos of that nature, anything like that. I don't recollect anything that would formally be a dildo, anything like that. How would you describe sex toys? I wouldn't describe sex toys. Did you have anything that was an electronic nature that would be used during sex? Objection to the form and foundation. I have no idea what you are referring to. Maxwell, Exhibit 3, transcript marked for identification. Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. First I have to read this. Sure. Ms. Macaulay, I will stop the clock while the witness is reading. Mr. P. No. Ms. Macaulay, yes, if she is going to read the whole document, I will stop the clock. Mr. P. If you give her documents to refresh her recollection, we are on the clock here. Ms. Macaulay, then we will take it up with the judge. Mr. P. Read whatever you need to answer the question. Ms. Macaulay, I'm going to set the document aside and I'm just going to ask you a question, independent of the document. Do you recall having a basket full of sex toys? I already told you I did not. We were talking a moment ago about Ms. Roberts and her position as a masseuse. Do you know what she was paid for working as a masseuse for Jeffrey Epstein? I do not. Did you ever pay her? I don't ever recall paying her. Do you know what happened during the massage appointments with Jeffrey Epstein and Virginia Roberts? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. No. Were you ever present to view a massage between Jeffrey Epstein and Virginia Roberts? I don't recollect ever seeing Virginia and Jeffrey in a massage situation. Do you ever recollect seeing them in a sexual situation? I never saw them in a sexual situation. Did you ever participate in sex with Virginia Roberts and Jeffrey Epstein? I never ever at any single time at any point ever at all participated in anything with Virginia and Jeffrey. And for the record, she is an absolute total liar, and you all know she lied on multiple things, and that is just one other disgusting thing she added. Did you help her obtain an apartment in Palm Beach to live in? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. Was that part of your responsibilities for Jeffrey? First of all, I didn't know she had an apartment in Palm Beach. I only learned that from the many times you guys have gone to the press to sell stories, so no. Did you help her get a cell phone? Was that one of your responsibilities for Jeffrey? To get her is a cell phone as part of her masseuse obligation. Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I don't know what that means. Masseuse obligation. I don't know what you are referring to. Would you like to ask the question properly? I think it was proper. I will ask it again. Did you ever assist in getting Virginia Roberts a cell phone to use during the time that she worked for Jeffrey Epstein? I have no recollection of doing anything of that nature. Did you ever tell Virginia that you wanted her to have a cell phone so that she could be on a call regularly? I have no recollection of that conversation. How often would Virginia come over to the house in Palm Beach to give massages? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. Ask the question again, please. How often did Virginia Roberts come over to the house in Palm Beach to give massages? It's important to understand that I wasn't with Jeffrey all the time. In fact, I was only in the house less than half the time, so I cannot testify to when I wasn't in the house, how often she came when I wasn't there. What I can say is that I barely would remember her. If not for all of this rubbish, I probably wouldn't remember her at all, except she did come from time to time, but I don't recollect her coming as often as she portrayed herself. How many times a day on average would Jeffrey Epstein get a massage? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. When I was at the house and when I was there with him, he received a massage on average about once a day. Just once. Yes. Were there days when he received 4 or 5? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. When I was present at the house, I never saw something like that. Do you know if Virginia was required to be on call at all time to come to the house if Jeffrey wanted her there? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I have no idea of the arrangements that Virginia made with Jeffrey. When Virginia was in New York, would Virginia sleep at Jeffrey's mansion in New York? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I don't recollect her being in New York, and I have no idea where she slept. You don't ever remember seeing Virginia Roberts in New York? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I would barely recollect her at all except for this story. Do you recall Virginia Roberts calling you because she was having a medical crisis and you and Jeffrey taking her to the hospital? I have heard this absurd story, and if any part of it were true, I remember that. I do not. You don't remember taking her to the hospital? It's not that I don't remember it. It didn't happen. How do you know it didn't happen? That's the sort of memory you would recall. Do you recall you said you don't remember her being at the New York mansion when you were in New York? Would you stay at the New York mansion with Jeffrey? I stayed from time to time. Do you recall Virginia being at the New York mansion when blank came to visit. Objection to the form and foundation. Like I told you, I don't recall her being at the house at all. How many homes does Jeffrey have? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. When I was working for him, I think he had 6. Maybe. Would Virginia stay with him in these homes? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. I can only testify for when I was present with him, and I cannot say what she did when I wasn't present with him. When you were present, would Virginia stay in the house with him? I don't recall her staying in the houses. Did you train Virginia on how to recruit other girls for massage? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. No. Did you train Virginia on how to recruit other girls to perform sexual massages? Mr. P. Objection to the form and foundation. No, and it's absurd, and her entire story is one giant tissue of lies. And furthermore, she herself has, if she says that, you have to ask her about what she did. Does Jeffrey like to have his nipples pinched during sexual encounters? Mr. P. Objection to form and foundation. I'm not referring to any advice on my counsel. I'm not talking about any adults' sexual things when I was with him. When Jeffrey would have a massage, would he request that the masseuse pinch his nipples while he was having a massage? I'm not talking about anything with consensual adults situation. What about with underage? I am not aware of anything. You are not aware of Jeffrey Epstein ever having sex with an underage minor and asking them to pinch his nipples? I am not. So I'm going to direct you to, I believe it's Maxwell, Exhibit 1, the police report. Are you aware that over 30 underage minors gave testimony to police that they were engaged in sexual acts during quote-unquote massages? Mr. P, the witness needs to find Exhibit 1. Exhibit 1, if you can hand me that, please. So now with respect to the police report, are you aware that over 30 underage girls, meaning under the age of 18, gave reports to police that they were assaulted sexually by Jeffrey Epstein during massages? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. I read the police report, that's all I can testify to. Are you aware of what is in the police reports? Are you aware that there were 30 girls? I did not count the number of girls, and I did read the police report. I can only testify to what I read. So you are aware that the police report contains reports from 30 underage girls. I can't testify to what the girls said. I can only testify to the fact that I read a police report that stated that. Were you working for Jeffrey? You said you worked for him as on until 2009, is that correct? I helped out from time to time. So you were working with him during the time period when these underage girls were visiting Jeffrey's home? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. I was not. What year? I need years. How about, let's say, 2005? I'm not sure I was at the house at all in 2005. Maybe one day, maybe. How about 2004? I was present for his mother died in 2004, so I was there for his mother's death and the funeral, and I was at the house maybe a handful of days again. I would like to direct you to, you have it pulled together now, it's page 39, Bates stamped Guifa 00040. Can you repeat that, please? Sure. 00040. Yes. At the top of that document, about 3 lines down, you see the redacted portions there is black, so it blacks out the name. I see black redacted portions. That's a black redaction of the name of the minor, and there is, I will represent for the record, that's what it is. You can contest that, but I'm not asking about the name of the minor. 5 lines down, it says she was just 16 years of age. Do you see that? I have to read that if you want me to testify to some things. I'm asking if you see where it says she was just 16 years old. No, I have to read it. It's 5 lines down on the first paragraph. I do see that. Then the next paragraph down, it says, this is the next full paragraph. It says, Epstein entered the room, introduced himself. Epstein lay on the table and told her to get comfortable. Blank could not remember if he was naked or if he entered the room with a towel. Blank stated she provided the massage, wearing her panties. She continued rubbing his thighs and feet. Blank advised he turned over on his back and continued to rub his legs with oil. Epstein touched her breast and began to masturbate. I asked her if she knew what circumcised and uncircumcised meant. She stated circumcised is when the penis had no foreskin. Then, jumping down to the next paragraph, it says Blank became upset, crying hysterically, and stated she was paid and also instructed to have sex with Epstein and Blank by Epstein. Do you see that there? I do. Are you aware that there were underage minors in the Palm Beach house that were required to give sexual massages to Jeffrey Epstein? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. This has been asked and answered already. How you are just reading a document. Ms. Macaulay, I am allowed to take this deposition. I already testified. Are you aware there were underage girls, 30 of them, in this police report that were assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein in the Palm Beach house during the time you were working there? I'm aware that Virginia has lied repeatedly. I'm not asking about Virginia. I'm asking if you're aware that there were over 30 underage girls who gave reports to police officers during the time you worked for Jeffrey Epstein. Are you aware of that? Mr. P, counsel, what is your factual basis for asserting there are 30 underage people who gave reports? Ms. Macaulay, I don't have to answer that. Mr. P, are you representing as an officer of the court that you have personal knowledge that there are 30 people referenced in these police reports? Ms. Macaulay, that's my understanding, that there are 30 girls. Mr. P, how is it that you're understanding if these are redacted reports? By reading through the reports. Mr. P, so you have personal knowledge there are 30 people? Ms. Macaulay, just like can you if you can read through. I will not argue with you, counsel. She can answer yes or no. Are you aware there were over 30 individuals who were minors who gave reports to police, just like the one we just read, that they were sexually assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein in the Palm Beach home during the years that you were working with him? Mr. P, objection to the form foundation. You can answer if you have knowledge. I already testified I was limited in the house a couple of days. There is no way I knew. I have read these reports. I cannot testify to 30. Given the experience I've had with Virginia's lies, it's very hard for me to testify about what I see. I can tell from you, my personal knowledge, I did not know what you are referring to. You did not know there were underage girls in the home that were being assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein during this time you were working there. Based on the lies that I have already been told, I cannot comment on any. Are you saying these 30 girls are lying when they gave these reports to police officers? I'm not testifying to their lies, I'm testifying to Virginia's lies. I'm not asking about Virginia's lies. I can only testify to Virginia's lies. I can testify to having read these reports. I cannot testify to anything else about them. So your testimony is that during the time you were working there, you did not know that these minor children were being abused in the home while you were there. What I have already told you, and I will repeat, I was in the house very limited times, very few times. I do not know what you are referring to. I've read these reports, but based on the lies that Virginia has perpetrated, cannot tell you what is true or factual or not. You said you were in the home a very limited time. So average in the year, for example, 2004, how many times would you have been in his Palm Beach home? Very hard for me to say, but very little. How about his New York home? Same. Were you his girlfriend in that year, in 2004? Define what you mean by girlfriend. Were you in a relationship with him where you would consider yourself his girlfriend? No. Did you ever consider yourself his girlfriend? That's a tricky question. There were times when I would have liked to think of myself as his girlfriend. When would that have been? Probably in the early 90s. In your responsibilities in working for Jeffrey, would you book massages for him on any given day so that he would have a massage scheduled? Would you take a call, for example, and book a massage for him? Mr. P, objection to the form foundation. You can answer. Typically, that was not my responsibility. He would either book the massage himself or one of his other assistants would do that. From time to time, you had to do that. Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. Like I said, typically it was somebody else's responsibility. If you were unable to book a girl for a massage on a given day, would that mean that you were responsible for giving him a sexual massage? Mr. P, objection to the form foundation, and I instruct you not to answer any questions about any of your consensual adult sexual activity. So you are not going to answer that question. You just heard my counsel. Have you ever said to anybody that recruiting other girls to perform sexual massages for Jeffrey Epstein takes the pressure off you? Mr. P, object to the form foundation. Repeat the question and break it out. Have you ever said to anybody that you recruit girls? Stop right there. I never recruited girls. Let's stop there. How break down the question? Have you ever said to anybody, by girls we are talking about underage people? You said girls. Are you talking about underage? We are not talking about consensual acts. This is a defamation suit. I'm asking the questions. I know what this case is about. I will ask you questions. If you don't understand the question, I can break it down for you. I'm happy to do that. Break it down a lot, please. I will do that. The question is, have you ever said to anybody that you recruit other girls? Why don't you stop there? Let me finish my questions. Have you ever said to anybody that you recruit girls to take the pressure off you so you don't have to have sex with Jeffrey? Have you said that? That's the question. You don't ask me questions like that. First of all, you are trying to trap me. I will not be trapped. You are asking me if I recruit. I told you no. Girls meaning underage, I already said I don't do that with underage people. And as to ask me about a specific conversation I had with language, we are talking almost 17 years ago when this took place. I cannot testify to an actual conversation or language that I used with anybody at any time. Have you ever said to anybody that you recruit other females over the age of 18 to take the pressure off you to have sex with Jeffrey? I totally resent and find it disgusting that you use the word recruit. I already told you I don't know what you are saying about that, and your implication is repulsive. Answer my question. I just did. Have you ever said to anybody that you recruit females? I don't recruit anybody. That's an answer, so you never said that. I'm testifying that I cannot testify to an actual language. It's a yes or a no. I will not testify to an actual statement made 17 years ago, so I cannot testify to actual language. So you won't testify to anything I'm asking you 17 years ago about a statement you made. How do you know it's the 17 years ago? We are talking about a time in 2000, right? Have you ever said that to anybody? I'm 54 years old, so you are asking me in my entire life. What words are you asking me in my entire life? Your entire life is limited by the time you were with Jeffrey. This is your question. Let's time limit the question you are asking me. So, from, let's say, I think you said you started with him in 1992. Is that correct? And finished with him in 2009? So from 1992 to 2009, have you ever said to anybody that you recruit others and we will start with girls to take the pressure off you to have sex with Jeffrey? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. First of all, I resent and despise the word recruit. Would you like to define what you mean by recruit and by girls? You mean underage people. I never had to do anything with underage people. So why don't you re-ask the question in a way that I am able to answer it? I'm asking if you ever said that to anybody. So if you don't understand the word recruit and you never use that word, then the answer to that question would be no. I have no memory as I sit here today having used that word. Did you ever meet an underage girl in London to introduce her to Jeffrey to provide him with a massage? Mr. P, objection to the form foundation. Run that past me one more time. Did you ever meet an underage girl in London to introduce her to Jeffrey to perform a massage? Mr. P, same objection. Are you asking me if I met anybody that was underage in London specifically to provide a massage to Jeffrey? Is that your question? Yes. No. Do you know who blank is? I don't recall her right now. Do you know if... Strike that. During the time that you were working for Jeffrey, did you ever observe any foreign females, so in other words, not from the United States, that were brought to Jeffrey's home to perform massages? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. Females, what age are we talking? Any age. Can you repeat the question? During the time you were working for Jeffrey, did you ever observe any foreign females of any age that were at Jeffrey's home to perform a massage? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. Are you asking me if any foreigner, not an American person, gave Jeffrey a massage? Yes. Well, as I sit here today, I can't think of anyone who is foreign. Certainly. I just can't think of anybody right this second. How about any foreign girls who were under the age of 18? I already testified to not knowing anything about underage girls. Were there foreign girls who were brought to Jeffrey's home by blank for the purposes of providing massages? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. I'm not aware of blank bringing girls. I have no idea what you are talking about. You have never been around foreign girls who are under the age of 18 at Jeffrey's homes. Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. I already testified about not knowing about underage girls. Did you provide any assistance with obtaining visas for foreign girls that were under the age of 18? I've never participated in helping people at any age to get visas. Was it Jeffrey's preference to start a massage with sex? Mr. P, objection to the form and foundation. I think you should ask that question of Jeffrey. Do you know? I don't believe that was his preference. I think you have to understand a massage. Perhaps you are not really familiar with what massage is. I am. I don't need a lecture on massage. I think you do. Mr. P, no question pending. She will ask you another question now. Massage is for health benefits. When did you first meet Jeffrey? Some point in 1991. And did Jeffrey know your father? No. How were you introduced to Jeffrey? Some friend introduced us. Can you describe your relationship back in 1991? Was it friendship, or was it girlfriend relationship, or was it a work relationship? What was your relationship in 1991? It was just friendly. Then I believe you testified you began working for him in 1992, is that correct? Yes. In 1992, I know you gave me the description of the work that you were performing for him. How much was he paying you? Do you remember? I don't recall. Do you know, for example, in 2001, how much he was paying you? I don't recall. Did it change over the years, or did the payments remain the same? I believe over the course of time it increased a little bit. Was that payment was the payment made with respect to the jobs, the work you were performing for Jeffrey? Was that your sole income at that time? Mr. P, I object to the form. I'm also going to instruct you not to answer about sources of your personal sources of income outside of Mr. Epstein at all. Ms. Macaulay, what's the basis for that? Mr. P, it's confidential, it's not part of this lawsuit. Ms. Macaulay, we have a protective order and it is part of this lawsuit with respect to our damage claims. Mr. P, it's not, and in fact, you are not entitled to ask financial information of a defendant in this kind of case. In a defamation case, unless and until there is finding that you are entitled to punitive damages. That is clear in New York case law, both state and federal. Ms. Macaulay, we disagree on that point and we will come back to that. From the source of payment, from the source of Jeffrey, from your work, can you give me a range on that? Do you know, was it over $100,000? I just testified, I don't recall. You don't know if it was $500,000? It was less than that. Somewhere between 100 and 500. Would that be fair to say? I believe it was between $100,000 and $200,000. Did Jeffrey, during the time that you were working for him, purchase a townhome for you? The subject of the townhouse is, I worked for it and I had a loan. We did loans. So a loan through Jeffrey. I don't recall the exact transaction. Did he purchase for you a helicopter during the time you were working for him? It was his helicopter. When did you obtain your pilot license? I believe it was in 98 or 99. Was that for both airplanes and helicopters, or just helicopters? Just helicopters. Have you ever flown blank blank on your helicopter? That is another one of Virginia's lies. The question is, have you ever done that? I have never flown blank blank at any time ever in any helicopter, in any place, any time, in any state, in any country, at any time, anywhere. Have you ever had dinner with blank at Jeffrey's home? At any of Jeffrey's homes? No, I don't believe so. Have you travelled on Jeffrey's planes with blank? Yes, I have. Would that have been in 2002? It's very hard for me to recollect exact dates, but that sounds about right. Was that during the time that Virginia was working for Jeffrey? I don't know that Virginia ever did work for Jeffrey. I don't exactly know if she testified to her so-called duties. We know she is a serial liar, so I can't testify to what she did or didn't do. So I object to that characterisation of her. So repeat the question, please.